Hey guys, I just want to let you know before we get into this episode that we've partnered with Band Builder Academy. Band Builder Academy is the #1 place to grow your music career. Run by top label manager and Sony Vice President Todd McCarthy, so you know it's worth it. Enter promo code CONCERTS at checkout to receive 10% off membership.
Hi, this is Jason from Oooth, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Joining me on the 100th episode of Concerts That Made Us is Jason from Oooth. Oooth recently released their album Catastrophe, and you're going to hear all about it. Jason is a world-renowned drummer who started drumming at the age of 4 and went on to play in some pretty cool bands and play all over the world. Oooth is a project where Jason takes the lead on vocals and guitar instead of on drums, and they really rock. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Jason, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thanks so much for having me. Awesome to be here.
I'm genuinely excited to have you now. I've been I mean, I've been wearing out your album on Spotify. I've been listening to it on repeat. It's one of the few albums this year that, every song is an absolute banger. It's just you can leave it on, you don't have any skips whatsoever.
It's amazing to hear. That's really, really, really cool to hear. I hope you don't say that to everybody.
I actually don't believe it. I think that might be the first time I've said it.
Wow, that's really cool, man. Sure, that's really awesome to hear.
So we opened the show with Breakout. It's off the album
Yeah.
Catastrophe, which you released on Friday the 9th. Would you like to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it actually started out as not being a collab song, and it's just a really straightforward rock and roll. There's nothing fancy to it, and I just started messing around on the guitar, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, really simple. Let's keep going. And then I was just hanging out with my one friend Albert Frost, who's a really great guitarist and vocalist, and I asked him what he thought, and he was like, wow, this is insane. And then I said, why don't you just take the second verse and let's, do something with it? And then he was like, cool, let's do it. And then he came into studio and literally half an hour and he had done his vocals and his guitar and the song was complete.
Jeez, that's not something you hear very often now.
Yeah, so it was actually quite interesting. So I got a contract to go. So I'm actually a drummer. So I got a contract to go play in Dubai, and it was about a month and a half before I had to go. So then I decided to quickly write this album. So I wrote, recorded, and did everything in just under a month, which is quite crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. There's also a pretty cool music video for the song, isn't there?
Yeah, man. So I've actually shot the 9 music videos before I left, and there will be like a constant storyline throughout the full album's music videos.
I'm really picking up on you like to not give yourself much time to complete massive projects.
No, listen, definitely a workaholic, and definitely I like to do everything and have it done as in yesterday. Yeah.
And the album features appearances by some legends of the South African music scene. How did you manage to wrangle all these musicians together?
So I've been in the industry now for about 19 years, and I've been in some of the very big bands in South Africa. So I'm actually quite fortunate to have all these guys as friends. We've all been sort of sharing various stages, throughout all the years. So it was quite easy to round up these guys, and I've definitely got a cool list that I want to do for the next album. And it's just really cool, because it's predominantly just me on these albums. So it's myself and the guy whose studio I record at, and it's just him and I who play all the instruments, and then I write all the songs myself. So it's quite cool to have these elements of collabs where you get to just pick someone else's brain, for that one song, and just adds a nice refreshing element to it.
Yeah, I was just going to say it must be a refreshing experience. But when it comes time for you to make a new record, what is the process like? Where do you find your influences? How do you come up with the sound?
So it's quite interesting. So I actually play so many gigs that when I'm not playing, I actually don't even listen to the radio. When I'm in the car, the radio's off. I literally never listen to music.
Right.
Just because I'm always learning new songs, and I have a YouTube drumming channel, so I'm always learning songs for that, and I'm learning songs for sessions, and I also record drums on other people's albums. So I'm so busy kind of on the work side of music that when I'm not working, I actually just don't want to listen to music. It's quite ironic.
Yeah, just a bit. And you've achieved a lot since 2018, releasing 2 studio rock albums, 2 live DVDs, an acoustic live album. It's a lot in 4 years. Does it feel like your career has been a bit of a whirlwind in that sense, or for you, does it feel like it's been a long journey to this point?
Yeah, man, it's definitely been crazy. I'm actually in the process of finishing up my previous album's live DVD, which will be coming out early next year. And I just think I really like to work, just not sit still. I think, you get people that just love to chill, and you get other people that just love to work. And I just like to see how far I can push this, And it's still a passion project at the end of the day. Playing guitar and singing, I definitely don't classify myself as a singer or a guitarist. But in this band, it's what I happen to play. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really cool passion project, and I think the songs are cool. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, they're very, very cool. It's for a guy that has so much going on, and it's almost kind of seem not to say it's not your main focus, but you're spreading yourself around so much. It's pretty cool that it's so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there anything you could compare the sound to out of interest?
That's a very good one. Now I was picking up bits of the Foo Fighters. That was kind of probably the main one. A little sprinkling of maybe Green Day. I could pick that up as well. They'd be the two main ones, but it was mostly the Foo Fighters now that stuck out for me.
All right, that's awesome.
What about yourself? What do you like to compare it to?
Well, I've sort of, I've also asked quite a few people, and no one's really been able to really label it. Like some bands, you just go like, oh, wow, that sounds just like Rage Against the Machine, or, oh, that sounds just like 21 Pilots. But I think I've had one guy tell me it sounds similar to Offspring, and I think that's pretty much all I've really had, from kind of the outside,
Yeah, I getcha. And Oooth is much more than a band. It's a brand as well, with clothing, coffee, and wine. What can you tell us about that? How did you set it up to be more than a band?
So I guess it's kind of standard for bands to have merchandising. So instead of doing 3 or 4 or 2 T-shirts, I think we did like a 12-piece line. So there's multiple items, and then I really went through a phase of loving coffee, just drinking a hell of a lot, way too much. So then it kind of made sense to bring out coffee, and then like a little booze. So thought, well, what's the healthiest option to go? And then that was wine. So went for a 2019 Pinotage, which is really, really good. In lockdown, I definitely overexerted myself on a good few cases of that wine. I think 2 years became 1 year. Yeah.
It's kind of thinking outside the box as well for coffee and wine for merch for a band. Is there any other products that, the normal person wouldn't expect that you maybe are thinking up?
At the moment, I haven't really been thinking too much about the merchandising side of the band. I think there was just a lot of focus in getting this album done and released. As I'm sort of dabbling in some other stuff, more film related, but still considering Oooth within that, which I'm looking to maybe explore and maybe do a nice release that will shock a few people in around June next year. And so all my focus has sort of been there. And then I'm also scheduled to go play, to do another contract in the Maldives and the Caribbean island. So, just been kind of occupied with the drumming side of my life for now.
Yeah. Something I've noticed is you've received airplay, you might as well say, around the world. It's a lot in Europe, Ireland. But from talking to so many South African bands, something I've noticed is the majority of them don't get much exposure outside the country, especially not on radio play. How did you go about getting your music out there, outside of South Africa?
To be really honest, I actually have no idea how that happened.
Right.
Yeah, when sometimes when I see these things, I'm like, wow, that's crazy, I went on to Spotify this morning and I saw, where was it? I think it's a year. Then I saw, since I released this last album, my Spotify's gone up 380% change since last month. And that's pretty crazy. It's quite a lot.
Yeah, just a bit.
So, I guess I just sort of, sit back and really enjoy to watch how cool this little adventure's going, And I mean, I definitely would love to get this band touring abroad. I think it could really do well in Europe and UK, maybe even the US. I think it might have a bit of a US appeal.
Yeah, definitely. It's that kind of rock music that I don't want to say easy listening because it's not in the easy listening genre. But, as soon as you hear it, or if you were driving along and you heard it on the radio, you'd instantly feel your foot tapping along, your head bobbing,
Yeah, for sure. And that's cool to hear, because that's always cool when there's always records that you can put on. I mean, I'm a massive Zeppelin fan, and you can easily put on a Zeppelin album and you can just cruise down the road, just drive along the beach and just tap your finger on the wheel,
Yeah, exactly. Is there any plans to release physical copies like vinyl or CDs?
I definitely want to. I just think it's quite tricky in South Africa. We don't have a really big rock and roll market. We have some really cool rock and roll bands, but they never really seem to last very long because they all kind of give up because there isn't really a good longevity scene over here. You can't really play full time. I would say there's maybe 3 bands that play full time. They just do music. With I'm referring now to rock and roll. We have our we have a massive Afrikaans scene, which is the local language, and then we have a very, very big urban scene. But as far as English rock goes, it's really small and really niche.
Yeah, that's something I've heard a lot before. Was there ever a scene for English rock there, or is it like a cycle? Was it popular maybe 10, 20 years ago and it's died back down now? Or
I definitely think it was massive. I mean, in the 90s, there was just a massive scene. I mean, Cito came from here, So they came from here. There's actually been some really big and really good bands, but without the correct funding and without a good infrastructure over here, it's really hard to go abroad. Also, if you're considering things like exchange rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, true. And, the pandemic, as a musician and a musician in South Africa, I know it closed a lot of venues. There was practically no gigs. How did you deal with it? How did you get through it?
Well, I was selling a lot of wine and coffee to just kind of keep the income happening. And I thought it was a really great time to just look back, and just see how lucky we all were to have gigs and to be able to play full time. I've been really lucky. I've been playing music now for 20 years, 19 years. And there isn't many people that has managed to push it for that long, especially over here. So I guess it was really cool. And then what I think was the sort of best part of it was when everything opened up again, because at the moment there is a massive boom, and I think it's worldwide, where there is just festivals and events going nonstop. Every weekend you can find multiple shows, probably around the world, that you can go watch. Everybody's touring.
Yeah, they really are. And it's funny, over here, it seems like everybody is coming in June. Like, we have massive bands all playing in June next year, and it's like, how am I supposed to, first of all, go to all them concerts, and how am I supposed to get the time off work, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And to afford all these tickets.
That's the other side of it. Yeah. Yeah. You'd nearly need a mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Have you, just totally off topic, have you seen that Blink reunion tour?
Oh man, that's a very touchy subject. I missed tickets.
Oh, really? I mean, I cannot believe it was so refreshing to see a rock band or punk rock band announce this worldwide tour, and they were just selling out quicker than pop artists.
That's a side of it I didn't actually think of, actually. Yeah, it was refreshing to see that, because normally it's the pop artists that sell out in seconds, but it was actually cool to see them sell out in seconds.
I mean, you will see Gaga or Rihanna or Pink or Taylor Swift, they will announce or Bieber, they will announce a show, and in a couple of hours it's all sold out. But I mean, Guns N' Roses will post a show and it probably won't sell out, or it will, but it will take a good couple of weeks. So for a three-piece pop punk band, to be just selling out and just adding dates, I mean, I think the whole 2023 was fully booked and already majority sold out, which is crazy.
Oh, it is. It is. The tickets are like gold dust, I think there's some left for over here, but they're like the VIP ones that are like, €400 each.
Jeez. Yeah, that is crazy. There was actually a petition going around South Africa where people were signing a document to present to Blink to actually come here to come play.
Really?
Yeah, it was bloody bizarre.
And I take it didn't work.
No, not as far as I know. I just think they are just too expensive, no one's going to be paying €400 to go watch a show.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
I think some people make that as a salary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a week's wages or more.
Yeah, exactly.
But back to the whole thing you said a second ago of pop artists selling out, and there was one concert I thought for sure would sell out in seconds. The Motley Crue and Def Leppard World Tour.
Yeah.
That really shocked me, because it was announced they were playing over here in Ireland, and Motley Crue have never played Ireland before, I don't think. I was thinking, get up early, be online like 2 hours beforehand, get in the queue. As of recording today, there's still tickets, and they've been on sale, I think, for like 4 or 5 months. I feel like the concert is going to be called off because nobody bought tickets.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's just it's one of them ones though, you'd be sure that they would sell out and they just didn't.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can definitely tell you that one band that is sounding incredible at the moment, not that they ever didn't, but Def Leppard, they are on fire at the moment. They are sounding so good. Motley Crue, I think they're going through a fair amount of problems, with, what's it, Mick Mars that's left?
Yeah, John 5 has stepped in, hasn't he?
Yeah, so they've had that, and then obviously all the vocal issues that they're currently having with Vince just not nailing it and not looking like he's going to last a 3-hour show,
I think they're one of them bands though, everybody's probably expecting them to cancel as well, but they're not exactly a band you go to see excellent musicianship.
Yeah, you go for that experience, I mean, also their production is on a different level. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. We better get back to your music.
Yeah.
Now, in 2020, you teamed up with Tattooers Unite to create a live show and crowdfunding initiative to raise funds for tattoo artists and stage crew. What was that process like?
Yeah, so it was just kind of crazy to see all the people that set up the festival stages and all the tattoo artists. They all weren't allowed to work because of COVID. So we were, there was quite a lot of people doing things where they were putting together like food parcels and stuff for the crew guys. And the one company that I was affiliated with, I had a meeting there for something else, and they were telling me about this. And I said, well, why don't we just do a free online show where the band plays for free and people can donate money, and with that money we can give it back to them to buy, more food or whatever to give back to these people who can't work. And then we did it, and went pretty amazing.
How was the experience, from being on the other side of it, from putting on a show instead of playing a show?
Well, I actually have a entertainment company where I book and manage a couple of artists. So, it was kind of cool, but it was pretty much normal. Obviously, it was my first online show. I had never done an online show before. So that was definitely interesting because there's definitely no, there's no audience. So you have to kind of go crazy on stage to no one. And then you're also talking to people that you can't see during songs, which is also quite weird. And then obviously, you kind of naturally feel like you can stop and redo stuff because there's no one there. But in reality, you can't, because there's a lot of people watching you.
Yeah. It must be hard to step out of that whole, this is more like a rehearsal mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At this stage, we'll dive into your music history for a bit to see how you got where you are. You're a renowned drummer, guitarist, vocalist, but I'd love to know where your love for music comes from. Can you remember your earliest musical memory?
So my dad was a drummer. So at about 4 years old, I started playing drums. And then I think I was about 7 or 8. Then I would play a song with his band on a Friday or a Saturday night. And then they would pass around this hat, and I would end up making more money than him. That was pretty cool.
Right.
People were quite impressed. You couldn't even see this little kid behind the drums. You just saw the drumsticks moving in the air.
I see. So you never had to deal with anxiety or stage fright from doing it from such an early age?
Yeah, I've actually never thought of that. I always just thought, I've kind of been lucky enough to be playing for so long that I don't get that kind of stage fright. The very first Oooth gig, I thought I would get stage fright because obviously I'm a drummer. And I think only when I walked out on stage to, as the intro played, and I walked out on stage, there was a little bit of a, oh shit, like why am I holding a guitar now? Is this gonna go down okay? But yeah, that was sort of the first and only time I really had any crazy feeling. I always tell myself, if you can do it in the rehearsal room, you should be able to do it in front of people, but it's not always that easy. And then obviously if you're mixing in alcohol, it also becomes a bit challenging.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
And as a teenager, what kind of music were you exposed to by your peers, and how do you think it molded you into the musician you are today?
Definitely Deep Purple, Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, Thin Lizzy. I think you can hear some of the Thin Lizzy guitar harmonies in the Oooth stuff. There's quite a bit of harmony guitar parts, which I definitely got that from Thin Lizzy. What else did I really listen to? Massive Metallica fan. I also grew up watching them, and quite lucky I got to open for them for 2 nights out here in South Africa. That was quite a interesting one.
Yeah, I could imagine. Jeez, how did that come about?
We heard that they were coming out here, and then we got asked to be the opening act in the band I was in, and then we did 2 nights with them. It was really, really something to behold. I'll tell you that. They definitely a massive traveling party with a very well organized setup.
And is it like all of us, normal people would imagine, you're backstage hanging out with them all day until you go on stage?
No, not really. Lars was walking around with what I would imagine was his PA. They were just walking around and doing stuff, and then James walked past myself and the guitarist, and then he was like, "Hey, aren't you guys the band that opened for us last night?" And we were like, "Oh my god, don't really know what to say right now. This is crazy." And then yeah, it was quite cool. On the second night, we got to do a meet and greet with him, and for about 20 minutes, we were just standing backstage talking, and yeah, it was really cool, and it was quite funny, interesting story. A couple of years later, I was in the Rainbow on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, and Kirk Hammett was there, and I was really drunk, and I was really convinced that he was going to remember me from from South Africa, and I was like, "Hey, Kirk, how's it going? Do you remember me?" And he was just like, "No, like, I don't know." Yeah, it was quite a little dream crusher right there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, jeez. If that happened to me, I think I'd give up right there and then. After the second night, I'd be like, okay, I can retire now. I've played for Metallica. Can't get much better.
I mean, they are just incredible, Well, according to me, they can do nothing wrong. Besides St. Angus snare sound. But other than that, I think everything's cool, They are just one of the I like, even when they brought out that new single now, you just listen to it and you're like, oh yeah, this is Metallica.
Yeah, yeah. This is Metallica as they are meant to be.
Exactly, yeah.
Flash forward a couple of years, what were the first steps you took to becoming, a working musician?
I think in the beginning I was playing 4 bands as a very young teenager, and being in those bands, I always felt like there was things that could have been done better. So in my late teens, I started running my own bands and putting together my own things. And sort of from then, I've sort of just played, just always been doing my own thing. But I have sessioned for other bands, like very, very big bands. And, obviously those bands, they're all doing stuff correctly. So, yeah, other than that, I just think if you want to be a constant working musician, you kind of need to have your own thing, because then you're in control of how often you work.
That's a good point. All right. And what was the local scene like, when in the days when you were just starting off? Was it very oversaturated?
There were so many bands, and we used to have these skate park events, which, looking back now, it was really rubbish. But there were so many people there, like so many kids, careless, It was like really these punk rock put together events with like no lights and playing at a skate park with a small PA and maybe 10 bands on the lineup, and just kids going crazy for 12 hours.
Geez, that actually sounds like a great fun though.
It used to be amazing, and but I don't think you get those kind of events anymore. I think it was kind of like a Vans Warped Tour feel, where kids are skating and riding BMXs, and in the middle of the skate park is a band with a couple of hundred kids around the band. Like, there wasn't even a stage back then. You just play on the floor.
I often wonder things like that, if they were to happen today, would it be the same? Or was it because we would have been certain ages, it would have seemed better, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I think also made it very different is back then, you could be quite poor and play really shitty equipment, but no one really cared, And I think now with, there was no social media back then. So, bands were still putting flyers in cars, wipers on the windscreen, in parking lots, in shopping mall parking lots, promoting their bands. And, I think when MySpace came, everybody was like, whoa, this is insane. And, so I think there was like a level of, there was a lot of DIY that was playing a very big role in your band's success. Where I think now you know, if you have a girl in your band and she can post half naked, your band will get a lot of followers.
That's the secret, is it?
That's all you need. You know, you just need a girl on guitar that plays with a really small top and a small shorts, and then your band will get followers. It's really
Right.
weird at the moment, you know, like Instagram and Facebook. It's just bizarre, you know. You see some of these challenges that people do just to get, you know, just to get views, and if you see how many people are suicidal when they don't get enough views or likes or shares, you know, it's really crazy. I don't think back then any of us started playing music for any other reason than like telling a story, you know, where now it's just, hey, you know, how popular can I become?
Exactly. It's a competition to become famous.
Yeah, that's it, you know, where so it's completely taken a 180-degree turn, you know, from what it was to what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did Oot come to be?
Wow, so um it's a pretty how censored is your show?
Oh, you can say whatever you want.
So it was basically a guy I know who had a prostitute in the back of his car who
Right.
was sucking him off, and then she took out her teeth and then said "Oooth lacquer," which lacquer means good. Yeah, and then I just started saying the word "Oooth" a lot, and then people started calling me Oooth, and then I was just like, well, then I'm gonna, you know, start a band and just call the band Oooth. So yeah, it's often I get asked on radio, and then I'm just like, yeah, let's maybe move along from that question. Yeah.
That's definitely the most interesting origins of a band I've heard. You'd want to be careful though. You might have her come back sometime looking for royalties.
Whoa, jeez. Yeah, just imagine that, eh? Might be looking for a lot more than royalties. You never know.
Well, that too. But if she didn't have teeth at that stage, I'd say she could be fairly past it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll jump into your concert experiences. It is concerts that made us after all. So first off, as a concert goer, what concerts have made you?
So the first band I ever saw live was Offspring, and it was it was like in the pinnacle of Offspring, you know, when they were really on fire. So that was definitely insane. You know, I remember walking into this stadium and I didn't even know you get places that big back then. You know, and then let alone a band that's so loud. Like, yeah, anyway, so that was pretty crazy. Then I've been lucky enough to open for a lot of cool bands. Alkaline Trio, um, Funeral for Friends, Cito, Korn, Metallica, Panic at the Disco, Aces, Bullet for My Valentine. Quite a lot. I can't really remember a lot of them. You know, so just all of those. I think what makes it really cool for me personally is being on this, you know, on the stage, watching how they actually work.
Yeah.
You know, because that side of things really interests me. I remember watching Bullet for My Valentine, and their guitar techs change all their pedals for them. So those guitarists don't even change their own pedals.
Divas.
Yeah, you know, so that was quite interesting to see, you know, and then yeah, so there was, you know, it's always cool to see the like background side of things. And it was quite cool. I got to hang with quite a lot of these guys as well. So it's cool, you know, you just get to talk and you know, you get to learn quite a bit, which is always great.
I'd imagine it's a pure education when from that point of view, really.
For sure, man. And some of the guys are really cool, and actually, most of them are really cool. Some of them aren't that cool, but then you just sort of walk away from those guys, you know?
Yeah. And out of your own gigs, the ones you've played with Oot, is there a gig that you would revisit over and over that you would say is probably the best experience you've had?
I mean, I think the first gig was probably one I, you know, would want to do again, only because it was such a freak out, you know, because, you know, as I walked out, I was just what am I doing here? Why am I not behind the drums? There was just so much I didn't know. I was forgetting to press pedals, forgetting to tune my guitar. My one amp head blew in the intro, and then I didn't know what to do, and and I forgot the other amp on standby, and there were just so many learning curves in that 1 hour gap,
Yeah.
which was cool, but obviously now you've just learned, so you double check things and you kind of know what to do before you go on.
I normally follow that question up with what's the worst gig experience you've ever had, but geez, with amp heads blown and forgetting guitar pedals, I think that could classify as both the best and worst.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, it was pretty chaotic, and also just every time a song ends and you're like, oh man, what do I even say now? Because you can only do thank yous once. So then you kind of need to come up with stuff that isn't cheesy and isn't lame. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And I actually filmed that whole show and put it up on YouTube as well. So I kind of always thought it would be cool to watch your very first show and then kind of watch the progress from there throughout time until you eventually end that project, and you can kind of always look back and see where it started and where it ended.
How do you approach playing a gig, as a drummer as opposed to being the front man? Is there much of a difference?
Well, as a drummer, it's really, really, really easy. You just get there and you get behind your kit, and you've got, as long as you're playing your parts correctly, no one can really say anything. But as a vocalist, you're really in charge of things. You really have to, take the bull by the horns, and you sort of guide the whole mood of the evening. If you're in a bad mood and you're going to portray it to people, you can very easily gain and lose fans depending on your attitude over the microphone. Where as a drummer, you can go there however you want and just hit stuff,
Yeah. And to give the listeners a little insight to behind the scenes, pre-show and post-show, how do you psych yourself up for the show, and then how do you wind down afterwards?
Sure. Normally to psych up, so what I do is before every tour, I have 1 or 2 live Green Day shows, and then that I always watch, just to kind of check that Billy Armstrong energy that he has, and then after that I watch the Queen Live Aid concert, and I always watch those 2 before we go out on tour, and that sort of just reminds me like what you should be doing, and how you should aim to control the crowds, and then when I get to gigs, I generally have a few drinks before we go on, and we're always making jokes backstage. We definitely a bunch of, we're always running commentary and running jokes. And, on stage, we're all wearing in-ears. So we can't really talk much to each other and make a lot of jokes on stage. But yeah, we just take a lot of jokes. After the gig, it's generally a bit of a party, So that's generally the unwinding phase. The partying and worrying about how you're going to feel the next day. Quite an interesting story. On my launch tour, I asked everybody if we can go down to Cape Town 2 days earlier, because I wanted to really protect my voice, because I wasn't sure how it was going to last. And then in classic Jason style, I decided to go out the night before the tour started and pulled an all-nighter and ended up losing my voice before the tour.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I was taking like 8 to 12 cortisone tablets just to try keep the little bit of voice I had left, but there was really nothing. It just sounded like a terrible Rod Stewart.
Right.
Yeah. So lesson learned.
Yeah. You sound like a guy that, likes to enjoy himself. Work hard, probably play hard as well. So what kind of...
Yeah, that's definitely it.
What kind of antics do you get up to while you're on tour? Is there any that you can share with us?
Definitely love a good prank. Definitely good at that. hiding people's guitars away. Sometimes I take it out the case and hide it away, or taking somebody's hi-hat cymbal off before the show starts. And then we all walk out and then there's only one hi-hat on the stand. Yeah, definitely like to pranks and, just have a good party all the time. I just think a lot of people are very uptight these days because there's so many worries. Everybody has a lot of stress and worries.
Yeah, true.
Sometimes it's good to just encourage people to let loose a bit.
Yeah, enjoy yourself a bit.
Yeah, but also if you're going to do that every night for 3 weeks, it might become a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it could very easily happen.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to your career, how do you measure success?
I think I'm pretty weird like that. I think I don't really think of that. I just try to be better every year. Try bring out a better album and try be a better drummer, a better singer. But it comes with all its challenges. There's only 24 hours in a day. If there was a few more, it would come in really handy. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I always follow that one up by, in 30 years' time, what needs to have happened with your career for you to look back and feel fulfilled and like you achieved everything?
I mean, I think if I can still be alive, that'll be a very great one, because 30 years from now, you never know where your health might be at, because it's a very it can be a very unhealthy lifestyle, because you're not always eating great food and long nights, a little bit of sleep, putting a lot of effort in every day. So definitely if you're alive, I think that's a good thing. And then I think if you can sort of leave behind music that people can listen to at some point in time and relate, I think that's always a good thing,
And before we jump into the last couple of questions, what are your future plans? What's locked in place for you?
Definitely keep doing these contracts abroad by playing drums in these contracts, and then definitely keep bringing out Oooth music every year. Maybe an album every year, and music videos for all of the album songs. And then maybe in a couple of years, I'll sort of start toning things down a bit on the gigging side of things. And then I would like to open up my own recording studio and go more into the recording and producing side of things.
It's a good plan, though. You don't hear many musicians saying that.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really cool way to still keep your finger on the pulse, but, not be living on the road.
Yeah, kind of take a step back.
Yeah. Because it is quite interesting. Like after a while, you sort of reach like a age where 18-year-old drunk people can become a bit annoying in a very busy club.
Yeah.
But when you are that age, you go hell for leather.
True.
Yeah.
Right, we'll dive into the last couple of questions. Everybody gets these, I'm afraid, so you can't get off the podcast till you answer.
All right.
If you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Led Zeppelin.
I knew you were going to say that one. I don't blame you. I don't even need to ask why. I'd love to see them myself.
Yeah, man. What a band,
Yeah, exactly. And the next one, if you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Oh, I think Hendrix or Freddie Mercury.
Ah, good choices. What would you hope to learn from either of them?
I mean, I think both of them just made, because they, obviously one's guitarist, one's vocalist, but the kind of way how they flawlessly were just so iconic at what they did. The one just made playing the guitar look so easy, but he was like a messy guitarist, but an incredible guitarist. And then obviously Freddie was just, probably one of the best ever, and probably will be one of the best ever forever. But he also looked pretty flawless, the way he used to control crowds that size, and it just looked like he was having fun. It never looked like he was really working.
Yeah, true. I always think it's funny, the answers to that question kind of go in cycles. And I feel like for the last maybe 5 or 6 episodes, I'm after getting Hendrix as an answer.
Oh, yeah? That's interesting.
And the final question. What song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Ooh. I mean, I could probably take maybe a night after a big party, I'll probably say Stairway to Heaven. But maybe if I wasn't after a big night, I'd probably say Rock and Roll could be a good one. Rock and Roll. Also, if we're going a bit modern, probably something like Monkey Wrench could be another good one. Yeah, there's just so many good songs, it's hard to pinpoint.
If I said I wasn't going out tonight, I'd be lying, I'd be lying, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. We're drawing the cash, we're going big till we finally crash. Only one more sleep till Christmas, I'm not lying, I'm not lying. The city with good times, enough pity to soothe your soul. So let's go far, how far is too far? In the city that never sleeps, in the city we never sleep. If I said I wasn't going out tonight, I'd be lying, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. We're throwing the gas, we're going big till finally crash. If I said we would survive this, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. Still lying in this bed, counting paint on the ceiling, wondering why I'm not dead, wondering what to believe in. So let's go far, how far is too far? In the city that never sleeps, in the city we never sleep. If I said I wasn't going out tonight, I'd be lying, I'd be lying, We're drawing the cash, we're going big till we finally crash. If I said we would survive this, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. If I said I wasn't going out tonight, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. If I said I wasn't going out tonight, I'd be lying, I'd be lying. We're drawing the cash, we're going big till we finally crash. If I said we would survive this, I'd be lying, I'd be lying.
Cold chills when there's no breeze. Sounds you can't explain. Foreboding feelings of dread. Sheer horror. This is Haunting Abaddon, an original podcast from Epilid Media featuring stories of the paranormal, demonic possessions, poltergeists and hauntings, and all things that will scare the hell out of you. These things do more than go bump in the night.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking. Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.